What would you do if you waited 10 years for the man you loved, turning down suitors, holding on to a promise, only for him to stand at the altar with another woman? That was Mori's fate. One vow beneath a corner light in Ado carried her through 10 years of waiting. But what followed was betrayal, heartbreak, and a truth too heavy for any woman to bear. In the town of Ado, under a dim corner light, two young hearts sealed a vow that would travel farther than they ever imagined. The year was ordinary, the streets quiet, except for hum of a generator and the laughter of night traders packing their goods. But that night was not ordinary for Mori. Oba was leaving, the boy with restless dreams, always speaking of cities greater than Ado, of fortune waiting beyond Nigeria's border. That night, before the bus that would carry him toward Lagos and then to Europe, he wanted her heart tied to his. Madi thinks I'm chasing shadows, Oba said quietly, glancing at his friend who stood a few feet away. But Mori, believe me, I will return. I will come back for you, and when I do, you will be my wife. From behind, Tari, Mori's closest friend, held her breath. She would later say the flickering streetlight leaned forward as if heaven itself wanted to hear Oba's vow. Mori's chest tightened. Her voice was small but steady. And if other men come, and if my parents press me, if the years grow long, she asked. Oba took her hands in his. His palms were callous, his grip trembling yet firm. Then wait, he said. Wait for me. No matter what they say, time will only prove our love. Tari shook her head in the shadows. She had seen men make promises before, under church bells, after too much palm wine, even at the market squares. But this was different. Mori lowered her gaze, fighting the tears rising in her eyes. Then I will wait, she said. It was done. No priests, no paper, no ring. Only a vow written into the night air of Ado, beneath the corner lights that hummed like a witness. And as Oba walked away with Madi into the darkness, Tari whispered to herself, promises shine brightest in the night, but who can carry them through the morning? The first year was easy. Mori still felt Oba's promise in her chest like a fresh air. She replayed his words every night. Wait for me, no matter what they say. In Ado, she became known as the girl who was already spoken for. Suitors came, and she refused them all. Her eyes fixed on a future still unfolding overseas. By the second year, whispers began. At the markets, women nudged each other when she passed. How long would she wait for a boy chasing foreign air? At weddings, aunties pressed her shoulder, urging her to settle before her beauty faded like last year's Ankara. Marriage isn't a waiting room. Mori. Tari told her one evening as they sat by the roadside watching buses roar past. Oba may love you, but love doesn't pay rent. Mori sighed, eyes tracing the orange glow of a nearby suya stand. You don't understand. He promised and I promised too. By the fourth year, Oba's letters arrived less often. Phone calls turned into short rushed conversations. Once, his friend Madi returned from Lagos and brought only a message. Oba says you should hold on. Tari wasn't even convinced. Words carried by another man. That's no promise. Mori, that's smoke. Still, Mori endured. Each December, when her matan coated Ado in dust, she wore white lace to church, imagining herself a bride waiting for the groom who had not yet arrived. 7 years passed. Her hair grew longer, her laughter quieter. She taught younger girls in Sunday school, while secretly praying for a miracle across the sea. By the 10th year, suitors no longer knocked. They had stopped waiting for the girl who was waiting. Only Tari remained by her side, faithful but weary of silence. One night, under that same corner light where it all began, Mori whispered to herself, if he doesn't come back, then what have I lived for? And in that moment, even Tari could not answer. The news came like thunder. Oba is back! Children shouted through at those narrow streets. Men left their draft boards under the mango tree. Women paused their trading at Oja markets. Even the Okada riders slowed as if the town itself wanted to watch him return. Mori's heart raced. 10 years of waiting folded into one trembling breath. She smoothed her dress and ran to the roadside, Tari at her heels, and then she saw him. Oba stepped out of a sleek black car, his skin glowing with the polish of years abroad. A gold wristwatch glimmered under the afternoon sun, his shoe clicking like a man who had learned to walk on foreign streets. Beside him stood Madi, grinning proudly, waving at familiar faces. Mori, Tari whispered, gripping her arm. He has come. Mori's eyes brimmed. All the night of prayer, all the suitors she had turned away, it all felt worth it now. She took a step forward, but froze. Oba did not search the crowd for her. His smile was wide, his greetings generous, but his eyes slid past her like she was just another face in the noise of Ado. Still, when their eyes finally met, a storm broke inside her. He nodded once, caught but sure, as though acknowledging a debt he had not forgotten. That night, Tari found her restless. Why did he come to you directly? She pressed. He just arrived, Mori whispered, clinging to hope. He will come. He must come. But Tari frowned, her voice steady as a drum beat. I saw the way he looked at you, Mori. It was not the gaze of a man returning for love. It was the gaze of a man carrying another story. And deep down, though she dared not admit it, Mori felt it too. Something had changed in Oba. Something heavy. Something hidden. For the first time in 10 years, her waiting no longer felt like certainty. It felt like standing at the edge of a dark road, not knowing where it led. This turned into weeks, and still, Oba did not come. Mori kept her dresses pressed, her hair neat, her heart wide open. Every knock at the door made her chest slip. But when she opened it, it was only neighbors or churchwomen, or Tari with her worried eyes, never Oba. Then one Saturday afternoon, as the sun burned orange over her door, the blow landed. Tari stormed into Mori's room, holding a small white card. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. Mori, you need to sit. What is it? Mori asked, her voice already trembling. Tari placed the card in her palm. A wedding invitation. Gold letters pressed on fine paper, bold and cruel, invites you to celebrate their union, Oba and Becky. This coming Sunday. Mori's words spun. The walls of her room blurred. Her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. No, she prayed it was a dream. But the paper in her hand was too heavy to be a dream. It's not possible, she whispered, clutching the invitation as if it might burn. 10 years. Tari, 10 years I gave in. Tari's eyes filled. I warned you. Sister, promises made under a streetlight do not always survive the daylight. That evening, whispers raised through her door like wildfire. So it's true. Oba came back with wealth and left his old love in the dust. Women shook their heads. Men clenched their tongues. Madi avoided Mori's street. Oba never came near her gates. On the evening of the wedding, Mori stood again under the corner lights where it had all begun. She touched the rusted pole, remembering his words. Even if it takes 10 years, I will come back for you. Her voice cracked into the night. You came back, Oba, but not for me. And somewhere in Ado, drums were already being turned for a wedding feast that would break her heart in two. Sunday dawned bright and merciless. Ado Street buzzed with the sound of hired bands, car horns, and women in shimmering lace gele. The city was alive, dressed in gold and red for the wedding of Oba and Becky. Mori sat by her window, the invitation card still on her table like an open wound. Tari begged her not to go, but Mori's chest burned with a stubborn fire. "I must see it with my own eyes," she whispered. 10 years cannot end in whispers alone. By mid-morning, she stood at the back of the church, hidden in the crowd. The air was thick with perfume and excitement. The choir sang. Drums echoed, and guests found themselves as the bride walked in, radiant, her white gown glowing under the stained glass lights. And then Oba appeared. Mori's heart lurched. He looked taller, older, clothed in a fine suit, but his eyes, those eyes that once begged for her to wait, never once searched the crowd for her. The pastor's voice thundered, "If anyone here has reason, these two should not be joined. Speak now." Silence fell. Mori's throat tightened. Tari's hand gripped hers, warning, begging her to stay still. But her legs trembled with the urge to scream, to shout the 10 years of her life into that silence. Instead, her tears did the speaking. Silent, unstoppable, running down her cheeks as rings were exchanged, and cheers erupted. The sound of clapping roared like thunder. Mori felt it pierced her chest, sharper than any knife. She stumbled out into the sunlight, her vision blurred, her ears ringing. Outside, children danced for leftover rice, and vendors sold sachet water to sweating guests. The whole of Ado was celebrating, but for Mori, the world had ended. Under her breath, she whispered to no one, "I was his bride in waiting, and now I am his ghost." And from afar, Oba never once looked back. The drums faded, the guests returned home, and Ado carried on as though nothing had shattered. But for Mori, the world was different. Everywhere she walked, eyes followed. At the market, women dropped their voices as she passed. That is the girl who waited 10 years. See how foolish love can be. The whispers beat harder than knives. At the church, mothers pulled their daughters close as if waiting itself was a disease. Even the pastor's sermon seemed to lean towards her pew. "Do not put your trust in man," he said one Sunday, and though he never called her name, every face turned in her direction. Her parents said little, but silence can be louder than words. Her mother's sighs hung in the air at night, and her father's footsteps were heavy with unspoken disappointment. Tari tried to protect her. "Ignore them, Mori. Their tongues are sharp, but their hearts are small." But Mori's voice cracked. Did I not honor him? Did I not keep my word? And yet, he cast me aside like dust. Meanwhile, Oba and Becky became the pride of Ado. Their new house, painted white with tall gates, was the talk of every street. Children chased Oba's car as if it roared past, chanting his name as though he were a king returned. Only Mandy seemed restless. He avoided Mori's gaze whenever they crossed paths, guilt swimming in his eyes. Tari noticed it first. "That boy knows something," she muttered. "Something he is too afraid to say." Nights grew heavy. Mori stopped combing her hair, stopped wearing her bright dresses. She moved like a shadow through the town, haunted by the memory of a promise made under a corner light. One evening, standing again under that same light, she whispered, "Did I waste my life for a lie?" And though the streets were full of noise, in her heart there was only silence. Madi had always been loyal to Oba, childhood friends, brothers in all, but blood. But guilt is a heavy chain. And each time he saw Mori drifting through Ado's streets like a ghost, the weight grew unbearable. One night, Tari cornered him outside the party. The speakers blasted music. Laughter spilled into the streets, but Tari's voice cut sharper than any drum. "Mandy, you will talk tonight," she said, blocking his path. "What do you know? that makes your eyes run from Mori's face. Mandy froze, his bottle sweating in his hand. He sighed, shoulders sinking. Tari, it's not my secret to tell. Then whose? Tari pressed. Oba's. He's already destroyed her. If you stay silent, you are no better. Mandy's chest rose and fell. Finally, he whispered. Oba did not return to marry Mori because he could not. Tari frowned. Could not? Or would not? Mandy swallowed hard. Abroad, Oba made choices. Becky's family, they gave him papers, money, and connections. She lifted him when he was not seen. His marriage to her was sealed long before he came back. If he broke it, everything he built would collapse. Tari's breath caught. So Mori was never forgotten, just sacrificed. Mandy nodded, shame painting his face. He begged me never to tell. He said it would kill her. But now, I see it is killing her anyway. The next day, Tari found Mori sitting outside her house, staring at children skipping rope. Tari knelt beside her and whispered the truth. Mori's eyes widened, then closed. Her voice was calm, so calm. So 10 years of my life was not stolen by fate. It was traded, like money in the market. Tears slipped down Tari's cheeks, but Mori did not cry. She only lifted her head to the sky, as if asking heaven, why promises weigh so heavy on the ones who keep them? It was a humid evening in Ado when Mori finally gathered her courage. 10 years of silence pressed behind her chest like a storm waiting to break. Tari walked beside her until they reached the tall white gates of Oba's new house. Music drifted from inside. Guests laughing. Becky's voice ringing bright. But Mori wasn't there for Becky. She was there for him. She knocked hard when the gates opened. Mandy stood there, startled. Mori, he began, but her eyes silenced him. She brushed past, her steps heavy, her dress trailing dust. Inside the compound, Oba appeared in a crisp kaftan, his gold wristwatch catching the lights. He froze when he saw her. Mori, he whispered, don't say my name. She cut him off, her voice sharp enough to slice the air. Say instead what you did to it. Say why you made me cry. 10 years of waiting, only to hand my place to another. The laughter inside the house dimmed. Even Becky paused at the doorway, sensing fire. Oba's chest tightened. Mori, things were different abroad. I had to survive. Becky's family. Then Mori said, survive? Mori's voice cracked, trembling with fury. And what of me? Was I not surviving here? Carrying your promises like a chain around my neck. Turning away men. Swallowing shame. Waiting while the world mocked me. Was that not survivor? Oba's eyes glistened, but his words stumbled. I never meant to hurt you. You didn't hurt me, Oba. Mori's parts. You buried me alive. Silence fell. Even the crickets outside seemed to hush. Becky shifted uneasily, but Mori's gaze never left Oba's face. Finally, Mori stepped back. Her tears were gone, replaced by something harder. Keep your house. Keep your wealth. But remember, promises broken don't die. They haunt. And with that, she turned and walked out of his gate. The night, swallowing her figure like a story too heavy for the living. After that night, nothing in Ado felt the same. Whisper turned from Mori to Oba. At the market, women no longer praised him as the boy who made it abroad. Instead, they lowered their voices. Did you hear how his old love stormed his house? 10 years she gave him, and he buried her with silence. Oba tried to walk the streets with pride, but the air felt heavier now. Thick with judgment. Even Becky's smile began to fade, her eyes sharp with questions she dared not ask. Mandy drifted from his side, unable to watch the ruin of a friendship built on lies. He muttered, "We were kings once, Oba. Now look at you, a man with gold on his wrist but mud on his name." Meanwhile, Mori moved differently. Yes, her heart was broken, but pain had burned something new inside her. No longer did she avoid stares or whispers. She walked through Ado with her head high, her dress firm, her eyes steady. Tarin noticed the change. "You carry your scars like armor now," she said. Mori nodded. "He took 10 years from me. I will not let him take the rest." At church, the same pastor who once threw sharp sermons now called her forward to lead the women's fellowship. People saw in her not a victim, but a woman forged by betrayal. Oba, however, was unraveling. At night, he sat outside his mansion, staring at the corner lights where it had all begun. Memories gnawed at him. Mori's trembling promise, her waiting eyes, her furious words. Becky, once his crown, became his mirror. "Do you love me, Oba?" she asked one night. He could not answer. And in that silence, Oba realized what wealth could never buy back. The trust of the one who had carried him in absence, only to be abandoned in return. The town that once sang his name now watched him with quiet contempt. Oba was home, but he was no longer celebrated. He was haunted. They say time is the true judge of all promises. And in Ado, time revealed everything. Months passed after the wedding. Oba's grand mansion stood tall, but the laughter inside grew faint. Becky's beauty could not mask her suspicion, nor her family's endless demands. Every smile Oba forced was heavy. Every night restless. Meanwhile, Mori's life began to bloom. She opened a small tailoring shop near the bus park. Her hands stitching bright fabrics that women traveled across town to buy. Her name, once tied to shame, became tied to resilience. Mothers whispered to their daughters, "Be patient like Mori, but be wise too." Tarin watched her friend with pride. "You thought Oba was your future," she said one evening as they closed the shop. "But maybe he was only the fire that forged you." Mori smiled softly, though pain still in her eyes, but no longer ruling her. He was a chapter, not my whole story. One night, Oba wandered back to the corner lights, the same place where 10 years earlier his promise had bound Mori's life. The bulb flickered weakly above him, as though mocking his return. He stood there, alone, whispering her name into the shadows. But Mori never came. She no longer waited under that light. Her light now burned elsewhere. In her shop, in her fellowship, in the strength she carried every day. And so, I don't learn the truths as old as time. A promise can be a chain, or it can be a path. Opa's promise chained Mori for 10 years. But when it broke, she found out a new path. One stronger than the boy who betrayed her. The town never forgot her story. Children grew up hearing it. Women repeated it. Men shook their heads at it. And always, it carried the same warning. Do not hold another's promise so tightly that you lose your own life. For some, promises are not meant to be kept. They are meant to teach.